knew I wanted to be a police officer since I was 5. I was given a sticker by a police officer. It said junior policeman on it. You know, my parents thought it was cute and they're like, oh, okay, she'll grow out of it and, you know, she'll want to do something else. I never grew out of it. I'm very hard-headed and I'm stubborn, and that's part of my drive, and that's part, I think, what makes me successful. And when I was a teenager, I thought I knew everything and I thought I ruled the world. I actually left home when I was 16 years old. A lot of people had given up on me. My late nights hanging out with my friends ultimately got me into continuation school. I remember the principal pulling me aside and saying, I've looked at your transcript, what are you doing here? You need to get your head out of your butt. If you continue on this path that you're going on, you're not going to achieve what you want to do. I'm definitely proof that you can make mistakes and come back from them and still be successful. Homicide is the varsity, at least I consider it the varsity team. I met with a lieutenant here and asked him, I said, how do I get on the varsity team? He said, well, you have to work the precursors to homicide. So you have to work domestic violence, or you have to work sex crimes, or you have to work gangs. I took that very literally and I worked all three. And I think that's what's made me a much more well-rounded detective in my unit. I think that my own life experiences, I'm far from being perfect. I've had some darkness in my life. I can relate a little more to the victims that I end up having on my caseload. Most of the people that end up homicide victims, you know, lived a high-risk lifestyle or made some poor choices. I'm very non-judgmental. I always try to relate one way or another to them. Some of these victims don't have families. And then you really realize that I'm the only one left on this planet that's going to care for them. I'm the person responsible for bringing them closure. For me, failure is not an option. People always ask me, how long are you going to work homicide? Till all my cases are solved. And I have unsolved cases, and they wear on me. You are this person's last hope of some kind of justice. There isn't a day that I don't come into work that I don't see my victims up on my wall. And they're the first ones I see when I come in, and they're the last ones I see when I leave. So they're ever present and never forgotten. I had a case that was particularly difficult, and I knew who the suspect was. So it wasn't a matter of knowing who he was, it was a matter of proving it. You know, take a case in front of a jury and having them see it. And I struggled a lot with it. I felt like I was missing something, and I was constantly going home and looking at pictures and saying, what am I missing here? I picked up a rosary and I said, I need help. I just started meditating and asking Blessed Mother, I need your help, I need your guidance. And it's something that's calming, and that's how it started. And then that became that victim's rosary. And so I pick up a rosary every time I have a homicide. It's going to be unique to them, whether it's their favorite color or whether there's a Catholic saint that's around the anniversary of their death. I'll pray for them within 24 hours of their death. And I will use that rosary throughout their case. And when I feel that I no longer need their help, then I give it to the family. And if they don't have a family, then wherever they're laid to rest. And if they're not laid to rest, then I pick a place for them and I leave it there for them. The boys always say like, oh, but you're not really a chick, you're kind of like half a dude. And I said, I don't know how to take that. But okay, I think I think you're trying to pay me a compliment, so it's okay. My partner, who just retired, he's this old crusty white guy. When you think of your stereotypical cop, that's him. And he got partnered up with this, he calls me a chick. I got partnered up with this chick. You know, at his retirement, he said, I had 3 great partners in my career, and I was one of them. And I think when he originally was partnered up with me, he's like, how's this gonna be with this girl? But it didn't take him very long to warm up to me. I know that some of my counterparts haven't had, you know, that friendly environment, so. I know that you just have to fight. You can't give up, and you have to believe in yourself. even when others don't. You are your best friend. Know that no one's perfect, and you just gotta get up and try again. I am a huge shoe collector. It's the girly part of me, okay? Whenever I have a really difficult case and I work really, really long hours, I reward myself with a pair of shoes. And so I actually have a frame hanging in my closet, and it says, if you give a girl the right pair of shoes, she can conquer the world. Marilyn Monroe. It is so true. Whether it's combat boots that I wear when I'm working patrol, or my little Cole Haans that have taken me everywhere in any, gory crime scene, just own it. Be who you are, be your own person is what I got out of that. There's definitely two cases that will stay with me forever. One was the case of an individual that had been discarded in an abandoned house on a driveway. I was brand new. It was the third case that landed on my desk. And I still remember one of my partners, who is now my boss, telling me, oh, good luck with that one. It's a body dump case. You got a cold case on your desk. I looked at him and I said, this is just wrong. Who does this to someone? I learned the most from that case, and I learned to trust my instinct on that case, despite what other people were telling me, to listen to my inner voice and trust my instinct. I'm on the right path. It took me 9 months. I became very good friends with the district attorney who tried the case. And I became very good friends with the sister of the victim. We just had cocktails last week. And I said, I wish we all could have met under different circumstances, but for some reason our paths were, meant to cross. And the case that I just handled recently, just because the women were so vulnerable. They were in a high-risk lifestyle, but they were just so vulnerable and they didn't see it coming. I think as a woman, I think we feel a little bit more. And so they're always gonna be very special to me. I call them my girls. People tell me that I have, great interview and interrogation skills, and I just had a recent one where I spent 13 hours interviewing an individual that had killed 5 women, and he told me things that nobody should have to hear. And I don't think I'm ever gonna get him completely out of my head. Sometimes you have to go to the dark places to find the answers. The quicker you can get in and out, the easier it's going to be on you and your own sanity. Nobody deserves to bury their child. And so when I'm in that room and I'm hearing these things, and particularly with him when he was telling me some of the things he had done, he really paid attention to my reactions. If I swallowed too hard, if I looked away, he would clam up or stop. And so I was very self-aware of that. That whole 13 hours and what he was telling me and the consequences of me hearing these things and how they were going to affect me was really irrelevant. It was about 5 women that needed my help. I was there to accomplish a task. It's an immense responsibility that I am honored and privileged to be able to do, and that I hope I do well. When I left after that 13-hour interview, it was a long conversation with this man. I had an audience that was watching. Obviously, it was a big case in our city, and people are curious and they want to know. And so, at one point, I think I walked out and there was like 13 people watching what was going on in this interview. So talk about pressure as well. And when he confessed and I finally ended it, I walked out. I made it just outside of my office before. I'm a girl. It is just pouring down. I mean, I have been holding it for 13 hours. I walked into the bathroom and just kind of let it all out. And I remember there was an FBI agent that had been helping me, and I think I've kind of like made myself okay. And he's like, nope, go back in there. Have a moment, it's okay. And I did, because I still had to take him down to the jail and tuck him away where he deserves to be. He defended himself during the trial, which was unique in itself. And so I had the unique task of having to share a lot of private conversations with him throughout the trial. The DA kind of joked with me and said, I think Stephen Gordon has 2 friends left on this earth, and it's you and me. And we're both trying to put him away and put him to death. He joked with me, he goes, I bet he writes you from death row. And I said, Are you crazy? He's written me from death row. He's a serial killer, he's narcissistic, and he's manipulative, and I'm sure he wants something from me. But that's part of building the rapport with them. And the only way you can prove what happened is by getting the suspect or the perpetrator to admit to what he's or she's done. It's kind of like how you talk to anybody. You treat them with humanity and with kindness, even if they don't deserve kindness. And who do you tell your deepest, darkest secret to? To your best friend. Sometimes people find that unnecessary, or they question why I spend 2-3 hours just having a joyful conversation, or maybe sharing a meal with someone who's done horrific things. But how else am I going to get them to trust me to tell me, some of the most horrific things they have done? And that's how you do it. I'm always curious to see how they're going to react to me. Are they going to be mad at me when I get on the stand? For the most part, I've had some wave at me or agree with me when I correct a defense attorney because they'll say something and I'm like, no, that's not how it happened, and I'll see them nodding their head like, yeah, she's right. You never know what kind of impact you're going to have on a person if you just spend some time with them and you just treat people fair. And that's all anybody wants. I maintain a close relationship with the mothers. They want the world to know that their daughters were so much more than this brief moment that they were in a bad spot in their life. Because there is so much more depth to these women than just that moment. And I know that with the right resources and with the right help, they could have overcome what they were doing and gone on to be wonderful women and wonderful mothers. When people have come and asked me to either talk on camera or to talk about the case, I always ask them, well, what are you covering? If it in any way is negative or they refer to the women as prostitutes, and they don't know this, but the answer is already, in my head, it's no. Because, to me, they're just my girls, and that's not how I want them to be referred to. One of the victims had a little sister, and she wants to be a detective, so I want to, help nurture and foster that. I feel for her because she lost her big sister. Not that I'm trying to fill that void, but I'm also wanting to let her know that there is someone that, cares about her, remembers her, and that if she needs help, I'm here. I've been told that's not healthy, but I disagree. I think people are meant to cross your path for a certain reason. Martha's mother, she's the epitome of grace. And, sometimes people want to rush to judge and they're like, well, why was Martha, out prostituting? I always say, until you've walked in that woman's shoes, you have no right to judge. She was an excellent mother and she was trying to provide for her daughter. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong what she was doing. I don't know Martha and I don't know what got her there, and so I'm not one to judge. And all I can do is say that she had a wonderful mother and she's got a wonderful little sister, and I hope that she's, up there looking down, and I hope that I did all the girls proud, because they certainly helped me along the way. I wasn't able to have my own children, even though I thought, that's what I needed to do. Sometimes when things like that happen, they're very difficult and you don't understand, and that's part of kind of going into a dark place and then coming out of it and realizing that God had a different path for me. In a way, these cases and these victims they're kind of like my own little children, and you want to see them come to end, and you want to see them, or at least the families, get the answers they want. And then just like you kind of let your own children go off, I have to let them go and pick up another case. There's nothing that you can do that's going to bring you more job satisfaction than my job. Yes, it's hard, and yes, there's going to be very long hours. My husband jokes, but I've sat in my closet and just kind of like, what am I doing? What am I missing? I can't do this anymore, especially, when you haven't slept for 3 days. But I'll get myself up and just realize, tomorrow is another day and I get a whole nother shot at it. And I think that's what keeps me going. When you are able to walk into a home and give some kind of closure to a family, it makes it all worth it. And it doesn't matter what mistakes you may have made along the way, just trust in yourself. And I'm proof. I'm a 5'3", I call myself a little Mexican chunky girl that is living her dream. I never let anyone tell me that it was impossible. I remember hearing a quote when I was in high school, and it says, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." And it's so true. And I think as little girls and teenagers growing up, it's so easy to let people affect your self-esteem, and until you realize that you have the power to change it all around. So I would say, don't let anybody crush your dream. It is totally possible, and it just requires hard work and just sheer drive on your part. And don't let anybody or anything get in your way. Chase it. It's worth it.